meeting of August the 11th. This hybrid meeting is being held in person here in council chambers and electronically in accordance with section 238, subsection 3.3 of the Municipal Act and section 16.6.24 of the City of Woodstock Procedure Bylaw. This meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube channel, and a recording will be posted on the city's website following the meeting. The meeting will also be broadcast on Rogers TV. An agenda of the meeting can be found on the agendas, meetings, and minutes page of the city website. Councillors attending virtually will be raising their hands in view of their webcam when moving a motion, requesting to speak, and when a vote is being taken. If a member of council is disconnected or having technical difficulties, we will take a recess in order to attempt to rectify the issue. If technical difficulties exist that prevent the meeting from continuing, the meeting will be adjourned and reconvened at a later time. If a councillor attending virtually needs to leave the meeting at any time, they are requested to inform the clerk. And Councillor Achimuni will be reading the resolutions today. There's no disclosure of conflict. Is there any disclosure of conflict of interest? Hearing none. Matters arising from the minutes. Go ahead, Councillor Accioni with minutes.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Talbot. Then the minutes of the regular meeting of Woodstock City Council held on July 14, 2022 be adopted.
Are there any questions about that? All in favor of the motion? That's carried. There's no additions to the agenda and no presentations and no delegations. So our first is the planning, and I'll call on Mr. Huff. And could I have a motion on the first application, which is B22-38. 33-8, A22-07-8, application for consent and minor variance, Denise and David Thompson, 452 Spencer Street. Councillor Talbot and second by Councillor Accioni. Go ahead, Mr. Huff. Mr. Huff.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council advise the Land Division Committee that the city supports the proposal to sever the subject property subject to the following 5 conditions, and further that Woodstock City Council recommend approval of minor variance application A22078 submitted by Denise and David Thompson for lands described as part lot 47, plan 77, City of Woodstock, as it relates to the conditions. Do I have to read the last one to the variance? The variance only applied to permit the construction of an unenclosed landing and stairs of sufficient size to provide access to existing dwelling.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. So this first application before you is for a upside down, backwards. Okay, first application is for to sever a lot for to facilitate the construction of a single detached dwelling on Spencer Street in Woodstock, immediately west of Finkel Street. The property that's proposed to be severance is in a frontage of 11.5 meters, area of about 5,000 square feet, but less than 5,000 square feet, and then the retained lands are also occupied by a single detached dwelling. The variances that have been applied for together with the consent application for the severed lot is to reduce the frontage from 12 meters to 11.5 meters. And for the retained lot is to allow for, basically what's going to happen is that on the retained lot, there's currently a pool and a deck, both being removed from the site. The deck is being removed and replaced by a landing with stairs that will facilitate access into that side of the house. In order to accommodate that, there's need to be relief of the setback requirement from the, I'm not doing anything, so I'm not sure what's going on up there. But the relief will then facilitate that landing and staircase and still maintain some setbacks. So we've reviewed this in accordance with our policies for severances in our low density residential districts. We're satisfied that this lot is consistent with or compatible with the lots that are in the immediate area. It's large enough to accommodate a single detached dwelling and all of the amenities, including parking that would go along with that. And we are recommending support of both the consent and the variance applications. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Huff? If not, I'll call vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. The next application is B22-46-8 and A22-11-8, application for consent and minor variance. Kuwinder Betty, 635 Devonshire Ave. Could I have the motion on that? Councillor Accioni and the seconder. Councillor Talbot. Go ahead, Councillor Accioni.
Thank you. Moved by myself, the Woodstock City Council advised the Land Division Committee that the city supports application file A22-11-08 submitted by Kuwinder Betty for lands described as Part Lot 3, Plan 350, Parts 3 and 4, 41R 1517, Parts 2 and 541R 4695, City of Woodstock, and municipally known as 635 Devonshire Avenue, as it relates to relief from Section 6.2, Table 6.2 Residential Zone 1 Zone Provisions to reduce the minimum required lot frontage for the lot to be retained from 12 meters, 39.3 feet to 9 meters, 29.5 feet, and reduce the minimum required lot depth for the lot to be severed from 28 meters, 91.8 feet to 27.6 meters, 90.5 feet to facilitate the severance. And further, that Woodstock City Council advised the Land Division Committee that the city supports the proposal to sever the subject land subject to the following 5 conditions.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. This again is an application for consent. This was on the north side of Devonshire Street. The applicant here is proposing to sever the lot you see in red, which is about 5,900 square feet, retain about 35,000 square feet with an existing dwelling. Again, looking at it, this as a low density residential area, the policies require us to look up and down that street for a 2-block area. You'll see in this area that there's quite a variety of lot sizes and configurations. So we're satisfied that that this lot is well suited to the area in that respect. The lot, again, at 1,500 square feet is well in excess of the R1 zone provisions, plenty of space for parking, landscaped open space, amenity space, and all the things we look for on these sorts of properties. With respect to the variances on the severed parcel, that reduction in the lot depth is very marginal and is only, as you see, is very similar to the lot to the immediate east. In keeping with that, so it's considered to be appropriate in that respect. Will have no particular impact on the development of the property. The retained lot, the frontage requirement is normally 12 meters. In this case, the applicant is asking for 9, but you'll see here that because of the location of the house, because of the size of the property and the extent of the developed area being so far back from the road, that this is really just accommodates access to the property. At 9 meters, certainly well in excess of what we typically require to ensure that there is emergency access. There's even plenty of space here for snow storage for the winter months. So having said all that, we're satisfied that this application is appropriate, both the consent and the variances, and we are recommending support. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions through for Mr. Huff? If not, I'll call vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. Go ahead with the next application is OP 22-03-8 and ZN 8-22-07, application for official plan amendment and zone change, Tiffany Development Corporation, 335 Juliana Drive. Could I have a motion on that? Councillor Petter and second by Councillor Tate.
I move that Woodstock City Council support the application to amend the official plan file number OP 2203-8 submitted by Tiffany Development Corporation for lands legally described as Part Block 137, Plan 41 M234, Part 3, 41R 8712 in the city of Woodstock to amend the current high-density residential designation that applies to the lands to increase the density of development to facilitate the establishment of a 12-story residential apartment building with up to 142 units. And further, that Woodstock City Council approve in principle the zone change application, file number ZN 82207, submitted by Tiffany Development Corporation for lands legally described as Part Block 137, Plan 41M234, Part 3, 41R8712 in the city of Woodstock to amend the text of Special Residential 4 Zone R4-4 to facilitate the development of a 12-story residential apartment building with up to 142 dwelling units. And further, that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before the decision was made in relation to this planning matter.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. So this property is designated high-density residential right now. It has been that way since 2006. There were amendments made to the official plan at that time that affected both this property as well as the lands to the immediate west where the retirement home is today. That retirement home happened as a result of a subsequent application. So this property, again, high density residential, and the current zoning and designation of the lands actually facilitates a 12-story building on the site with 131 units. So the applicant is looking to amend the policies of the official plan to recognize that increased density from 131 units essentially to 142. As I mentioned the other night at the public meeting, is that the existing density of that property already exceeds the high density provisions in our official plan. I attribute that to the poor math skills of the planner at the time in 2006. Me. And but anyway, so the increase in density here, I mean, we're always looking for density in terms of how it affects the ability of the site to accommodate the development with whether that's parking, green space, or any other amenities or other facilities that may be required on the site. So in this case, the increase in density to 142 units is considered to be appropriate. The parking for the site is going to be accommodated predominantly through a two-level underground parking facility. Most of the surface parking that appears on this site, is actually for visitor parking. And again, most of the parking will be undertaken. So it provides plenty of space on the surface for separation, for spacing and green space. So we're satisfied that the official plan amendment is certainly appropriate in this instance. Now, with respect to the zoning, there are three components. The increase to 142 units is the one requirement, which again is really part of the density provision. The lot area of the site at the time, I think that the retirement home was developed, this became a separate property, was miscalculated. So basically the lot area is just marginally less than what the bylaw actually requires. It's almost like a rounding error. So we're satisfied that that relief is appropriate in this instance and isn't going to affect the ability of this property to be developed for what's being proposed. The setback is normally 15 meters for a building of this size in proximity to any lot lines. And in this case, the actual residential component of the structure will be 15 meters. What happens is with a portion of that two-level parking area, and this shows it a little bit. You look down here in kind of the bottom right-hand corner, a portion of that structure is going to be exposed. And that because of that, it requires a setback. And that setback is actually being requested to be at 3.5 meters. So we're satisfied that 3.5 meters is plenty of opportunity here, particularly for a building or a structure that is going to be so low to the ground that lots of opportunity here for screening and buffering from the property to the south or west, I guess, which would be the retirement home. And again, the main portion of the building itself, the actual residential component will be maintained at 15-meter setback. So with a view to all that, we are satisfied that the application be looked at favorably and are recommending support. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Petter?
Through the mayor to Gord, and I apologize for not being here Monday at the planning meeting because I'm sure you guys discussed this. Can you tell me about the shadow study done, Gord, as far as 12 stories being that close to the retirement home? I just wondered how that would affect it.
Sure. Yes, thank you. Through you, Acting Mayor, to that question, first, to begin with, remember that this is already a 12-story building permitted on this site. A lot of that work would have been undertaken, or actually, it probably wasn't undertaken, because at the time, the property to the west where the retirement home was likely, I believe, if I recall correctly, was also another 12-story building. So there, any shadowing that would have been completed for that would have been incorporated into the designation that happened. But even for this site, the applicant did submit some shadow work. And because of the way the building, if you look at that, the way the building has been oriented on the site relative to, you see the retirement home here immediately to the west, that configuration and using the tools, we don't really have specific policies in our official plan that speak to the requirement for shadow studying or what kind of criteria. We've been, for a lot of the work we've done, we've used industry standard. And that work has demonstrated in this case that the shadowing on that site, even though it's sitting 15 meters from just the way that's configured and because of where it is relative to where the sun's going to go around you through the course of the day, at every seasonal solstice is actually very minimal on that site and considered to be satisfactory.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, I'll call vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Huff. Next resolution is our correspondence, a piece of correspondence from Sydney Crockett, 100 Women Who Care Oxford, wanting to give back to the community. I have the resolution. Could I have a mover? Councillor Tate and a seconder.
I'll move the
Councillor
motion
Shelba.
that Woodstock City Council received the correspondence from 100 Women Who Care Oxford as information.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Oh, yes, yes.
Councillor Tate and I, we probably are going to do the same thing. I ran into Sydney at market on Saturday, and she was telling me about this. It was a group that I wasn't aware of, but what they're trying to do is get 100 women in the city of Woodstock, and these 100 women donate $100 4 times a year, and the money is given out to the community. And so far, they have given out $165,000 in Oxford County. And they usually like 3 groups to be represented at the time looking for funds. But Sydney's comment was they're still struggling to get 100 membership. Right now, they're sitting at about 87. So I'm going to contact her. I'm going to join. So she'll be at 88. And maybe Councillor Tate, I don't know if she's already a member or she might become a member, but I might get up to 89. So 11 more women we need to donate $100 4 times a year, and another group in the community giving back.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I've heard about it, and so that's great. So any other questions or any questions through to either Councillor Tate or Councillor Talbot about this? Okay, all in favor of the motion? Thank you. That's unanimous. The next is correspondence from Carlos Gregorio, Woodstock Curling Center, request to post promotional signs. Could I have a motion on this, please? Councillor Chioni and second by Councillor Schadenberg. Go ahead.
Thank you. Moved by myself, the Woodstock City Council approve Curling Center's request to place 2 signs for learn to curl on city boulevards, parkland and trail entrances for a 2-week period commencing on or about August 28, 2022.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Schadenberg.
Maybe not necessarily a question, Chair, but certainly just more of a comment than anything else. I want to commend the Woodstock Curling Center, who's done this in years past to attract membership and new young players to advertise on the city boulevards or whatnot. So I applaud them for doing that because they're asking to be able to do this, as the Terry Fox Run does, or Relay for Life and other events, other groups and associations do. So not sure if we want to get Dan Locke from our Works Department Engineering Office to maybe comment on it, but there certainly would be some frustration in the city of Woodstock on an ongoing basis, but people that decide they want to put out signage for businesses that have not received permission.
Thank you. Through you, Acting Mayor Lawbert. Yes, we certainly have a chronic issue, and I think council's passed a bylaw in the past on signage. So it is good when they come here. I would like to comment that where they put these ones, just make sure they're back from the intersections so they don't create sightline issues, anything like that. And I know that's where they want to put them is in plain sight, but at the same point in time, we have to keep everything safe out there. So it's good that they come here and ask and get permission and a little guidance as well from us. And hopefully it helps them with a successful program.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I call a motion. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. And the next is Councillor Accioni has requested the following correspondence be added to the agenda. Town of South Bruce Peninsula resolution that provincial and federal governments provide support and subsidy to medical students intending to practice in Ontario. Go ahead, Councillor Accioni. I'm going to have a second. Councillor Petter, seconder. Go ahead.
Thank you. Moved by myself, the Woodstock City Council supports the town of South Bruce Peninsula's resolution regarding physician shortages in Ontario. And further, that this resolution be circulated to the town of South Bruce Peninsula, the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honorable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, the Honorable Sylvia Jones, Minister of Health and Long-Term Care, the Honorable Stephen Leach, Minister of Education, the Honorable Jean-Yves Duclos, Minister of Health, Honorable Ernie Hardman, Oxford MPP, Honorable Dave McKenzie, Oxford MP, and the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on this, Councillor Tate?
Yeah, we have a very successful program here, and if Mr. Hammond can just comment on the success we've had because he's associated with it.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, through or Acting Mayor, rather, through to Councillor Tate. Yeah, we've got City of Woodstock's been funding a physician recruitment program now for, I think, going on about 4 years. And I guess what people need to appreciate when you're trying to attract family doctors to a community is it's a very long sales cycle and it's incredibly competitive too. So we've had some luck. I think we've attracted 4 or 5 to this point. Unfortunately, 2 of them we lost for personal reasons. They had to move away, but the pipeline is starting to get full now, or fill up anyway. Full is probably the wrong word. So it's been successful. I think we can expect more good things.
Councillor Accioni?
Yes, thank you. I just simply moving this to give another tool to help, because there's no secret. A lot of my own wife doesn't have a doctor here in the city of Woodstock. So there's definite shortage everywhere. It's one of probably the top 5 complaints I hear as a city councillor here in the city. So anything we can do, and if we're going to get some help, greatly appreciated.
Any other, Councillor Schadenberg?
Yeah, thanks, Acting Mayor. We would, the line, we would support an expedited accreditation process for foreign physicians. I think that would include just about all the sort of skilled people, whether it be registered nurses or even things like engineering, to be able to, if you've been foreign educated, to be able to get your accreditation here sooner would certainly be a great help too in the medical profession and just about every profession.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's passed unanimous. Staff presentations, we don't have anything. The mayor's report, there's nothing. Councillors' reports, nothing. Department reports, administrative services, statement of revenue and expenditures, and statement of capital expenditures for the period ending July the 31st, 2022. Could I have a motion on that, please? Councillor Tate, and second by Councillor Accioni. Go ahead, Councillor Tate.
Move the motion that Woodstock City Council receive the statement of revenue and expenditure and the statement of capital expenditures for the period ending July 31st, 2022 as information.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Thank you. I'll call the vote. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. The next report is the transit route revision that Woodstock City Council approved the change. Oops, just a minute. That's the resolution. So the trans, could I have a motion on the resolution? Councillor Schadenberg. And the seconder on that, Councillor Talbot. Go ahead, Councillor Schadenberg.
Now Woodstock City Council approved the change to Woodstock Transit Route 1 Northeast and Route 4 Northwest and instruct staff to put these changes into effect upon completion of the respective construction projects.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Would we like Mr. Dahan to say something about these changes?
Your worship, yes, these changes are going into place basically as a result of some of the county projects in the area. So because they're improving the intersections, we're able to actually in both locations avoid a residential road and basically eliminate one right-hand turn in order to smoothen the routes a little bit.
Thank you. Are there any questions through to Mr. Dahan? I'm sure we'll hear a few comments about it as any change happens. I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. The next is the asphalt resurfacing and surface asphalt 2022 tender award. Could I have a motion on that, please? Councillor Patter, and a seconder, please. Councillor Talbot.
I move that Woodstock City Council award the tender of the 2022 annual asphalt program to Permanent Paving Limited in the amount of $2,088,000 inclusive of HST.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Do we need any comments from Mr. Dahan? No? Okay. All in favor of the motion? Thank you. That's passed. The next one is the capital funding for the demolition of 760 Juliana Drive. That would, could I have a motion, Councillor Tate, and a seconder, Councillor Talbot? Go ahead.
I'll move the motion that Woodstock City Council approve funding of $120,000 for the demolition of 760 Juliana Drive from the Reserve for Capital Projects, and notice is hereby given that the 2022-27 capital budget is amended accordingly.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Talbot?
Thank you, Acting Mayor Lauder. I just curious, I don't know who wants to answer the question, but right now, Gulf North or whoever, they still use the garage portion of that building to store equipment to mow the lawn. Is the garage going to be coming down as well too, or is that going to stay to house the equipment? Or are we taking it over? Or yeah, I didn't know who. I knew one of you'd want to answer, but I didn't know which one.
Madam Chair, through to Councillor Talbot, you're correct. Gulf North still keeps the tractor in the garage portion of the building. We're hopeful that the previously approved purchase and sale agreement that's I think dating back about 3 years now for the swap of the small less than half an acre of land that the city owns on the north side of Juliana for the balance of the 47 acres of floodplain that was the 7 holes of the golf course will be able to be completed by spring of next year. So Gulf North has arranged a consultant, has a builder who's proposing a apartment building on that location. And they have completed all the studies that are required to submit the planning applications to change the zoning. So what we're thinking is that the timelines will be tight, but if they file for this in the fall, we should be able to complete the planning business, and they can waive their conditions on the purchase and sale agreement. And so by the time we're into the next year's cutting season, the property will be in the hands of the city, and Parks Department will have been able to plan for the necessary staffing and the equipment to maintain that 47 acres on top of the balance of the McQuinney property that Gulf North continuing to maintain for us in the south side of Juliana. So what that means is that we're hopeful that by the end of October, early November, we would be in a position to demolish the building. The cutting season will be over. Gulf North can retrieve their tractor and we can proceed to demolish the building. We're just concerned that as it stands, it continues to deteriorate. It is a fire risk, it is a safety risk, and we don't want to be a bad property owner.
To continue on that, I have to comment because I'm always complaining about it. The planter beds there were cleaned out and look so much better because it was horrible. Every time I went by there, I just wanted to stop and pick weeds for a while because there were so many, but it's been cleaned out. There's still stuff in it, but it definitely looks better. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? We'll call for motion. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. Moving on, the next one is architectural services for the Southgate Center renovation and addition. Could I have a motion on that, please? Councillor Schadenberg and a seconder, Councillor Hatter. Go ahead, Councillor Schadenberg.
The Woodstock City Council authorizes an increase of $200,000 for the Southgate Center renovations in addition to be funded from the development charges reserved for recreation projects. And notice is hereby given that the 2022 to 2027 capital budget is amended accordingly.
Thank you. Are there any questions on that, Councillor Schadenberg?
Yeah, thanks from the mayor. I guess more just of a comment than anything else. It really is one of those things that if you've been through the Southgate Center a number of times over recent years, that they really are bursting at the seams, as they always sort of describe it. And many of us attended the June 22nd luncheon, and their campaign chair was here at the last meeting too to talk about their commitment internally for their $1.5 million goal, I believe it is, and they're well over 1 million now on that. So we got to congratulate them for that. But it's something that really is needed for the city of Woodstock to be able to do this expansion and addition at the Southgate Center.
Yes, any other comments? Yeah, I think it'll be welcome for the people down at Southgate that they've worked hard to try to get this going. So I'll call the motion on that. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. The Culture Services Intellectual Property Policy. Could I have a motion on that, please? Councillor Talbot.
I move that Woodstock City Council adopts council policy GA029 intellectual property policy.
And that's second by Councillor Accioni. Ms. Reed, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you very much, Acting Mayor Lauder. It's actually our new manager of communications, Colleen Collins, who's sitting behind me, who will be taking the lead on this policy if it is approved. However, I did do the initial drafting because it is a requirement for the grant that we receive for the public bike racks. Really, it's an opportunity for us if somebody does come up with this amazing bike rack design that maybe revolutionizes bike rack manufacturing, that we are able to then enforce it as a copyright. I don't see that necessarily happening, but you never know what comes out of the creative minds of individuals, and it is a requirement for us to fulfill the funding for this project.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Reed? Not all in favor of the motion? Thank you. That's unanimous. And the next one is also Culture Services, the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings GICB Grant Program. Could I have a motion on that? Councillor Tate and seconder, please. Councillor Talbot.
Make a motion that Woodstock City Council approves contribution funding of up to $235,185 financed from the Reserve for Capital Projects towards the renovation of the gallery's 4th floor, conditional on a successful outcome of this GICB grant.
Thank you. Ms. Reed, would you like to speak to that one too, please?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Acting Mayor Lauder. So as you guys can see from the report, this grant was actually filed almost a year ago. I think I've written, I don't know, about 4 or 5 grants for the development of that 4th floor. And this is the first time that we've gotten this far with the grant officer. Actually, on Tuesday, myself, along with the CAO, David Creary, had a meeting with the grant officer and their superior, going through various details. They're basically at a point where they want to put together a very strong dossier that will then move up to the federal minister for approval. So we're not approved yet, but they are trying to make the strongest case possible. The request for this secured funding really does strengthen the opportunity that the grant will become, have a successful outcome. I want to mention though that this is really, and I love the word that Mr. Creary used in our meeting, it's a backstop. So it is my intention that if we are successful with the grant, that I will then be launching a capital campaign that will include a $100,000 naming opportunity for the 4th floor. In addition to that, going out to the general citizens of Woodstock and Oxford County. And there is also a grant available through Canadian Heritage for cultural spaces that this project would be rolled into. And not to toot my own horn, but I am going to. I think I have in the last 8 years proven to be a very successful grant writer as well as a fundraiser. So I do not feel I have any concerns in terms of raising the $235, but I do need a little bit of help to bring in maybe an additional $1 million to see this project come to fruition.
Actually, that's what I was going to comment on. So the public is aware how successful you have been and how lucky we are that we have you. You've made a lot of the stuff very viable at the art gallery for all your work you put into it. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Councillor Attioni.
Thank you. It's no secret. I've become a huge fan as well over the years. So just keep up the great work and you certainly have my support.
Thank you so much.
Any other comments or questions through for Ms. Reed? Thank you, Ms. Reed.
Thank you.
I'll call the motion. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. The next is the Community Improvement Plan Agreement for 33 Light Street. Could I have a motion on that, please? Councillor Talbot and a
I'll move that
seconder.
Woodstock City Council approve the community improvement plan application for properties located at 33 Light Street, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the necessary agreements, and further that the approved funds be taken from the downtown reserve for these projects.
Thank you. And Councillor Anchioni, second that motion. Are there any questions? Or would we like to hear from Mr. Hammond on that?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. So this is, I believe, will be our 41st community improvement plan application that may be approved by council. I guess will be approved if you choose to do so. It's been a very successful program. The program's been around in its current form now for about a decade, about 10 years. I think it's 2012 when it came in. This particular application is creating 1 new residential unit in the downtown, helping to rehabilitate a historic home and carriage house, and overall kind of fulfilling the mandate or the goal of the community improvement plan. I believe Mr. Magyar was asked at an earlier meeting how many new residential units have been created over the life of the program. And I don't think I would be too far off one way or the other if I estimated about 200 new residential units in the downtown, which I think is quite key to revitalizing the downtown, having people living here again with disposable income to be able to go out and patronize, local shops and so forth. So obviously 200 units isn't the magic number yet. It hasn't tipped the balance, but we're on our way. I was talking with the deputy treasurer this morning. We've been so successful. Our war chest is starting to get a little bit low right now. Part of that is that when we loan money, there's 10 years before it comes back to us. So we do still have a fair bit of money out there in loans that will be starting to come back in the next few years. And hopefully at budget council will see fit again to add another 200,000 to the war chest. But it's been a successful program. I believe it started to make a difference in the downtown, and we should expect more good things out of it.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments through to Mr. Hammond? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All in favor? Thank you. That's passed unanimously. So we don't have any special committee and advisory task force reports, no notice of motions, no new business, no draft bylaws. And so we're down to questions and answers of members of council. I'll start with Councillor Atchionne.
Well, thank you very much. Street Fest this weekend, starting tomorrow, 11 a.m., going Friday night and Saturday for the day. Sunday, of course, is the car show down there. Exciting to get, hopefully, the whole community out, of course. Get out there, support our downtown. That's really key. And of course, stay tuned to what's on Woodstock Magazine for everything else that's coming up. And I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Talbot.
Stole my thunder. But you can come downtown to the Street Fest. I'm going to be there for 2 days from early in the morning till late at night, helping out, and hopefully get to walk around and see lots of friendly faces. Just a reminder that it's not as big as years past because of the short planning period that we had to put it together. But I have to comment, there has been a lot of hard work put into this. So it might not be what everyone expected, but it's still going to be great. And we're looking forward to planning future ones and further in advance going forward. But I think the VIA and all the volunteers, and what was really nice, had some new people, like merchants from the downtown, volunteering and helping and organizing. And I think it's going to be great. And the weather looks fabulous. And then I was sitting here thinking that the next time we come back in this room, the kids will be back in school already. So the long weekend will have passed, and they'll be back in school and should be good.
Thank
Or
you.
no, they won't be. The first is on Thursday. Okay, we have one more meeting and then the kids will be, but
It's okay.
it's getting closer, but that just shows you how fast the summer has gone by.
That's right. Councillor Patter.
Oh, I wish you hadn't have corrected that. I was gonna jump all over.
I'm getting older.
I have nothing. It's too nice a day outside right now to be in here, so carry on.
Thank you. Councillor Schadenberg.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Cowapalooza because I've been involved with that event for so many years for the Lions Club of Woodstock. And we, of course, are in the beverage garden. The Lions Club of Woodstock raising money for many community events. The Trues will be on the Saturday night, September the 3rd. Of course, Friday night, September the 2nd, too, is a free concert in Southside Park. The band playing before the Trues, though, is interesting. It's called After the Lounge, and they have a guitarist named Jeff Kiku, who's originally from Woodstock as well. So that's important to take a part of this Cowapalooza. Reminder that Stages at Theater Woodstock has Willy Wonka Kids going on August 18th to the 20th at 7 p.m. each night. Theaterwoodstock.com is the website to find out more information. Here's something that Todd might be interested next to me on my left, that they got auditions going on for Guys and Dolls in September. And luck be a lady tonight. Maybe Todd will be participating in that one. The Dining Room and Guys in a Garage is another play that they've got going on for auditions coming up too. So lots happening at Theater Woodstock next door to us here. And just because we know that hockey season is right around the corner because the World Juniors are already on TV, the Woodstock Navy Vets have an exhibition game on Friday, August 26th at 7:45. The Dorchester Dolphins are the opponent. They come in from a different division, even though Dorchester's geographically fairly close to Woodstock. You're not in the same division or league normally. So that's their opponent that night. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Tate.
Yeah, I have a couple issues first, so I'd like to ask the Director of Public Works to comment on wet waste pickup. I've had a couple of questions, and just so let the public know that they are working on it.
Yeah, so through you, Acting Mayor Lauder, to Councillor Tate's question. Organic collection is a provincially mandated program that we are slated in Woodstock to start by 2025. So we're working on it. We're participating right now in some online forums where we're talking with other municipalities, seeing what they're doing. We're also looking at what our options are internally to do this, provide the service internally. We can always, if it works out that way, contract out if we need to. That's not the preferred way and not where we're starting for sure. The county is also doing a study through a consultant, and we have been participating in that. So we're learning some things from that. But there's two pieces at play here. So there's organics and there's recycling. And so I'm just going to talk about recycling for a second because it kind of ties in. So the recycling program is moving in, we've slated to move by December 31st, 2025 to extended producer responsibility, which is where those that create the recycling products, manufacturers, distributors, retailers, they take responsibility for the full life cycle of that recyclable, if you will. And so they would be looking at collection and curbside collection and collection depots and all of that. So there's an uncertainty whether we'll be able to continue. It's outside of our decision making, whether we'll be able to continue being the recycling curbside collector here and have anything to do with that moving forward. We're certainly working with groups like Circular Materials on Ontario and trying to keep that service in-house and keep because we think we provide a good service with that. We think we can do it for a good return on the pricing. So we're trying to keep that as well. But with that and the uncertainty with that, some of the things like what do we do with the trucks and could they be converted to in something that can collect organics and that whole program. So there's a lot of moving parts to this at this point. With the recycling piece, there's other municipalities in 2023 that move into that and 2024. So we'll have an opportunity in 2023 to learn from how those areas have went. So once we have all of those answers, my goal is to come back to council with a report with the direction and move forward from there, likely late 2023, because we'll have to be ready to implement and inform budgets for 2024 and implement in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted the public to be aware because I knew that something was going on and had discussions, but with all the chatter for coming up to election, it sounds like people aren't aware what goes on behind the scenes. So just we have really good staff. So they're on the ball and they're. My other comment was it was just I think we should give credit due where it is due. And Councillor Lauder has been filling in since January full time in the mayor's position, been doing a great job. I know somebody made a comment and I don't think they meant it directed at Councillor Lauder, but we've had no leadership. But we have had leadership, and a couple people mentioned they saw it in the paper, and I said I did too. And Councillor Lauder has been very good. We're very appreciative. It's a lot of work that she has done. She's not getting any extra pay for it. It's taken up a lot of time, and she has shown great leadership. So we appreciate all the work you've done. Thank you.
Okay. So save the date. Summer open house at the Woodstock Art Gallery, Saturday, September the 17th, 2 p.m. Join us for a walk and talk with the jurors of Visual Element 64. Awards for Best in Show and People's Choice will also be announced. Ruth Hartley will be also giving a talk on her stunning ceramic work at 3 p.m. And I want to congratulate going out to Brad Hammond, Development Officer, one of 10 people to be recognized by the EDCO, Economic Development Council of Ontario, to win their prestigious award, which encompasses over 1,000 members and is Canada's largest professional economic development association. The themes considered by the judges were leadership, dedication, innovation, and results. Congratulations. And on Saturday, the Woodstock Lawn Bowling Club is privileged to be hosting the Ontario Novice Combo Fours on Saturday, August the 13th. I will be attending their opening ceremonies at 8 a.m. And on Sunday, I have been asked to judge the cars, which I had nothing about cars. I said, if there's a yellow Mustang convertible that's what I said. If I ever want a convertible, that's what I want. And so that'll get the first prize. So anyhow, so I want to thank Councillor Tate for the words, and I appreciate that. And I am trying to do the best job that I can. So, and so we'll see you at Street Fest on Sunday, and hopefully I'll be down there Friday and Saturday at some time. So thank you. And with that, I'll call for an adjournment. Councillor Petter, and second by Councillor Schadenberg. All in favor? That's it.